All right, the hardest decision ever is to say, okay, we got to go on to the next thing when that was going on. That was our discussion over there for the last 20 minutes is when do we say stop? It's pretty tough. I'd like to just, as we go ahead and serve lunch and go ahead and eat, I'd just like to give a shout out quickly to some distinguished guests that are here today from all the different organizations in golf. Thank them for coming out and sharing our day with us. Mr. Richard Belize from the Westchester County Department of Parks and Recreation. Past PGA President of the PGA of America, Mr. Ted Bishop. Mr. Rob Bluestone from the MGA. Mr. Dave Donaldson from the Westchester Magazine. Michael Dougherty from the Journal News, lowhud.com. Mr. Tim Harton from the MGA. The fabulous Kate Keller from the MGA. Brian Mahoney from the MGA. Mr. Bill Meth from the Metro Golf Show. Mr. Jay Matola from the MGA. Former Sam Snead Award winner and great friend of the Metropolitan PGA, Mr. Lowell Schulman. John Silverberg from the Long Island Golf Association. Helen Stock from the MGA. Mr. Bob Thomas, Executive Director of the Westchester Golf Association. Mr. Roger Tolson, thank you for your service with the MGA and a great friend of the Metropolitan PGA. Mr. Doug Vergeth from the Long Island Golf Association. Just happened to be in town traveling from Europe, President of the PGA of Estonia, European PGA, Enrico Vio. Mr. Gene Westmoreland of the MGA. And wrapping up with Mike Zamalkini from the WGA as well. I'd also just like to recognize all the past presidents of the Metropolitan PGA that are here in attendance today. Mr. Jim Bender. Johnny Shobe. Joe Felder. Our next speaker, Mr. Tom Henderson. Greg Hurd. And our immediate past president, Brad Worthington. Once again, I'd just like to say just a heartfelt thank you to Michael and Butch for that great presentation. Thank you so much. It was one of the hardest things I had to do was to come up here and wrap that up. So right now we're going to go right into the presentation of the special awards, and we're going to start off with the Sam Snead Award and Mr. Tom Henderson speaking on behalf of Mr. John Kennedy.
The Sam Snead Award was established in 1973 when Slammin' Sam Snead came to Westchester Country Club for our annual spring forum, where he was honored as one of the 5 greatest golfers of all time. We created an award in his name for distinguished service. The award is presented annually, and I quote, to an individual in recognition of his or her contributions to the game of golf, the PGA, and the Met section. I cannot think of anyone more deserving than this year's recipient, J.K. John Kennedy. J.K. is a passionate man. He is passionate for the Met section. He served on multiple committees. He was a Professional of the Year in 1997, 3-time Section Horton Smith Award winner, 2-time Merchandiser of the Year Award winner, at 2 different clubs, I might add. 2-time Bill Strasbar Award winner, and he created our Bible, no disrespect, John, but the Met PGA Handbook. He is passionate about the PGA of America. Horton Smith Award winner national in 2010 and National Patriot Award winner in 2012. He is very passionate about mentoring. 18 former assistants have gone on to become head professionals or directors of golf. His door is always open to professionals and everyone alike seeking his advice. He's very passionate about the military and our veterans. Each year, John is always in Westchester Country Club, under his guidance, is always in the top 10 contributors for the Patriot Award Golf Day, or the Patriot Golf Day, excuse me. He's established golfers in support of our troops. He's established veterans on par. And he's provided, or helped provide, training, and he's been very involved in the Met PGA Hope program. Last but not least, John is very, very passionate about family and faith. He is a rock for Eileen, Johnny, and Sarah, a pillar in his community, and a humble servant in his faith. JK, I speak for all of us when I say thank you. Thank you for your mentorship, for always leaving your door open. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with all of us. Thank you for setting a high standard. And most of all, thank you for your friendship. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I introduce our Sam Snead Award winner, J.K. John Kennedy.
Thank you, Thomas. And I think back 45 years ago to 1972 when I got in the golf business. I attended our first educational program, my first educational program. It certainly wasn't the first. Not used to these Broadway lights, excuse me. And it was at Westchester Country Club. I was a young apprentice, 21 years old. I remember sitting in the back, probably too shy to come up front and ask questions. And to think that I would be standing here 45 years later as a recipient of a Lifetime Achievement Award is quite an honor. So, and to be given it by the current PGA Professional of the Year, the National PGA Professional of the Year, and a great friend, Tom Anderson, is also special. So Tom, thanks for the introduction and thank you for the reception. I stand here, but I don't stand here alone. Obviously, I'm alone on the stage. There's so many people I do want to take the time to thank. I'd like to start with the past presidents. Heath had mentioned them. These are gentlemen who are club professionals like ourselves who decided that they're willing to give of their time and their energy on our behalf. So to each of you, I'm most appreciative both for the service you've given to our association and also to me as a friend. To the award winners today, to Matt Dobbins, who Matt, I really haven't had a chance to know. He's on Long Island, I'm in Westchester, and it's almost like two different worlds. But I remember when he was selected as the head professional at Fresh Meadow and he'd worked for a good friend, Daryl, at Deepdale. He gave me a call and we talked on the phone about running his golf shop. And for somebody to transition as a head professional and to win 2 national Club Pro awards, player awards, is an amazing thing to be able to keep the balance between running a business, running your operation, taking care of your members, and also to maintain your game. So, Matt, you're joining a fraternity of golf professionals. When I was growing up, the great players were Jimmy Wright and Jimmy Albus, and it kind of transitioned into the Darrell Kessner, Bruce Zabriskie era. Obviously now we're Rob Labritz and Frank Benzel. Some great players. So you're in a great fraternity, but you should be honored for the ability to maintain that balance. To our professional of the year, he's a guy that is my neighbor. Not neighbor, although he lives in Bedford and I live in New Canaan, so we're sort of neighbors, but our clubs are both in Purchase, so we've been touching, our facility has been touching for many, many years. Nelson Long, his longevity at Century is such an honor to the members to recognize somebody of that ability. You know, Nelson grew up in the western part of Virginia. You'll probably tell by his accent a little bit. He doesn't have that Brooklyn accent. But Nelson's dad, Nelson Long Sr., actually worked with Sam Snead down at the Greenbrier back in the late 20s, early 30s. So the connection between Sam Snead and Nelson and his father and Nelson and I is kind of nice. Last year, Nelson was our house guest down in Bluffton, South Carolina, and you talk about Nelson as a young buck compared to me. He's probably a couple of years younger. But he went out and shot the easiest 72 you can imagine. It was like every fairway, every green. So he's maintained his game, but it's really the honor he brings to us as a gentleman and as a professional. So congratulations to Elizabeth and to Alex and to Eric and to Miss Terry for the honor that your husband got today. To Bruce Zabriskie, who's not on the list here, he won the Deacon Palmer Award. And the Deacon Palmer Award is for really overcoming obstacles, as Arnold Palmer, they honored Arnold Palmer's dad. And so Bruce will represent us as he goes forward in the national competition. Obviously a longtime member of the Westchester family. And Bruce and his wife created the Clara's Secret Shepherd Foundation in honor of their daughter, Clara, who passed. And what they've done is they've raised money through that foundation to reward hundreds of children in Broward and Palm Beach County who don't have anything. And every year they do a great fundraiser. So to Bruce, well done to you and your entire family. Congratulations. Met PGA staff. As I said, I don't stand here alone. All the programs that we run today, Kelly, you did an incredible job putting this program together. Certainly the Education Committee, again, for a great job, Michael Shank and Chris Kenny. And Jeff Voorhees, congratulations for your new position as the executive director of the section. But they work many, many long hours on all our behalf, so thank you to them. And he doesn't want it to be about him, so I won't make it, but to my great friend Charlie Robson, who's been with me all the, as I said, I've been doing this for 45 years. Charlie is retiring at 43, but I'm pretty sure you were there when I started in 1972. So to the entire Met PGA staff, thank you for the time and the passion you put on our behalf. To my club, Westchester Country Club is, you know, it's been my home for 26 years, my second home, although I probably spend more time at the club than I do at home, unfortunately. But you know what the great thing about Westchester, and it's so true of many clubs, that Westchester is pretty unique because it's such a high-profile club, is they always say yes. We run many educational programs on behalf of the Met PGA, and Westchester, in my 26 years, has never said no. They make the facility available, whether it be the range, some of the classroom settings. We've done a lot for junior golf at the club. So the club has said yes. To my staff, what they do for my staff, Tom had mentioned that 18 of my former staff have going on to become head professionals, and they've been very supportive of them and their families, financially very supportive of all of us. And then finally, they say yes to the military. I got very engaged in the military 6 years ago through a good friend of mine, Jim Estes, who started working with disabled veterans, and their generosity for Folds of Honor, Patriot Weekend, very, very powerful. So to Westchester Country Club for always saying yes, and I'm always happy to say yes to you, so thank you. To my staff, past and present, there's some that are here today for the first time. They show up, they work their 12, 14-hour days just like your staff. We try to keep a family atmosphere. We try to respect each other and honor each other for our differences and our similarities. I do want to mention three who have been with me for 20-plus years, our caddy master, Bobby Callens, our head professional, Harvey Lanik, and one of our teaching professionals and dear friend, Barry Triano. So thank you to all of you for what you've done for the club and for me personally and professionally. To my family, the dinners I didn't show up for, the long summer weekends, but now fortunately the children are grown and they don't want me around that much anymore. But to Eileen and to Johnny and to Sarah, the thing besides the love I feel for you as your father and husband, is the great admiration I have for the heart you have for others. And that's all you could hope for in your children, is that they find place that they could involve themselves with other people. And fortunately for Eileen and I, that Johnny and Sarah are grown up in that fashion and are headed in that direction. So thank you very much. For the one thing I'd like to finish up with is something that I kind of try to motivate myself each spring as we begin a long season. And one would be, and I hopefully we'll all feel this way, is a sense of gratitude. You know, we're lucky that we have our offices is 200 plus acres of beautiful outdoor land, and people are there to have a good time. Now, unfortunately, golf makes it difficult, as Butch talked about, to always have a good time over every shot. But it's rare that you have a profession where people come to you and have a good time and to have such a beautiful office. So gratitude for where we are and what we do is very, very important. I think for the people we can spend time with, whether it be staff, whether it be our club members, or in my case, some of the disabled veterans, to be grateful for that, I think is something that's very, very important. And what it does is it really gives you some joy in life. If you have gratitude, it's something that certainly gives you joy. I would say probably, the thing that, the second thing I'd like to wish for you would be that you have a chance to spend time with something you're passionate with. Try to commit 30 to 60 minutes a day to something that truly moves you, because I think that's going to give you energy to get through some of the things that are challenging. So try to find what you're passionate about. I know I try to. For me, it's learning. Butch had talked about never stop learning. That's something I truly enjoy doing. It's led me in a lot of different directions. It's been very rewarding. So I hope that all of us can have something, are allowed to spend time with something we're truly passionate about. And then I would say probably in closing, the thing I try to do, not always successful, but I hope that all of you do, have an opportunity to find a cause that's bigger than yourself. Because life is too short. And I think that there are many opportunities, whether it be for me in the military, for you, it could be just working with your staff, it could be some of your students, it could be at the church. Just to try to find a cause that's bigger than you, because you're going to get to where you want to get to anyway, and it's going to be a lot better trip along the way. So I encourage you to certainly have a sense of gratitude, to find something that you're passionate about, and then just find something, again, I try to do this myself, it's not for me to tell you, to try to find something that has a greater sense of purpose. So I'd like to thank the past presidents. I certainly like to thank Tom Henderson for that fine introduction. And I want to thank all of you for coming today to listen to Butch, to listen to all the award winners. And I hope you all have an incredibly good 2016 season. And because of you having a good season, everybody in your life has a better season. Thank you.
Congratulations, John. Next up to introduce our Player of the Year, Chris Kavanaugh.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. There's some great people in the audience, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood how special this game of golf is. And if you ask yourself right now, of all the amazing people that you've met through this great game of golf, I'm sure the list for everybody goes on and on. But right now I can say that this personally for me is a very special award from my friend Matt Dobbins. Matthew and I met together at Hudson National in 2003, and it brought together a great friendship, not only through friends and mutual friends, but it turned into a family as well. And I'd like to just let you in on a little story about how Matt met his wife, Lori, at Hudson one day. And typically, I was running the outing with the help of my other staff, and they needed somebody to do a Beat the Pro on the 13th hole. So Matt volunteered because he didn't want to be in the shop all day folding shirts with the rest of us. But so with that, I drove Lori around the golf course, and we went by the 13th hole, and we kind of, said hello, and then we drove around a little bit more, and she says, well, can we go back to the 13th hole? I said, yeah, sure. I said, well, of course. And she says, well, who's that cute guy in the 13th hole? So I said, well, it's Dobbs. That's my buddy. Let's go back to the 13th hole. So with that, I ended up having Yankee tickets for the game that night, and I talked Matt into asking Lori to come to the game with us. And we figured out that we went to the game. While we were at the game, we figured out that Lori's car was still at Hudson. So we're like, we're at Yankee Stadium. How are we going to get back to Hudson? And we're like, we'll just drive her home. I was like, well, Lori, where do you live? And she goes, I just live right over the George Washington Bridge. I'm like, all right, no big deal. We'll give her a ride back across the bridge. We'll get home. I'll get home in time. I won't get in trouble with Tanya. So with that, the game ends. We head down across the George Washington Bridge, and the story turns to, it's just a little bit longer. It's the next exit. It's the next exit. Well, in a minute, we're halfway to Atlantic City, and I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, Tanya's going to kill me when I get home at 4 in the morning. What am I going to tell her? But with that night started a beautiful family between Matthew and Lori, Caitlin, and Michael. And I'd like to introduce my friend, Matt Dobbins. Let me go through a few awards from this year. This year, Matty's playing accomplishments include 4th place at the New York State Open, 3rd place at the Met PGA Head Pro Championship, 1st place at the Met PGA Championship, 1st place at the Met Professional Championship, 1st place at the PGA National Championship for the 2nd time. He's played in 3 major championships, 2 PGAs, and 1 U.S. Open, and 10 PGA Tour events. And most recently making the cut a few weeks ago at the Shell Houston Open. Next, Matt will be playing in the Wells Fargo Championship, and with tremendous pleasure, I would like to introduce you to the 2015 Met Section Player of the Year, Matthew Dobbins.
John, thank you, Tank. Tank has become more than a best friend to me, and by the reaction he got when he stood on stage, you can understand that he's a very popular guy and has a very long list of friends. My list is not quite as long, but I happen to be on his, and I feel very lucky to be there. I love you, brother. I usually don't make notes when I give speeches. I feel like it goes a little bit smoother if I just sort of talk off the top of my head. I approach lessons the same way, so to speak. And this event kind of got me thinking a little bit more than normal, so it probably won't be as good of a speech. But one of the things that I wanted to make sure everybody knew when they left was that I had a reporter tell me maybe a month ago. He said, Matt, it looks like you're embarrassed when you win a tournament. It doesn't look like you're happy or relieved. He said, it looks like you're a little embarrassed. And I started to think about it, and the reality is I am a little bit embarrassed. And the reason that I'm embarrassed is because ever since I was a child, there have been people in my life that have loved me unconditionally. And those are the people who encouraged me and never pushed me and allowed me to realize my potential in the game of golf. Started with my parents, and then in college coach, and the number of PGA professionals that have given me lessons over the years. And then I got the opportunity to go to Hudson National and work the valet in 2003 while Tank was running everything. And it grew from there. That led me to meet the most important person in my wife Lori, who's here with us today. And then it also led me to Deepdale Golf Club to work for my mentor, Margie Kessner. Daryl was there too, but let's be honest, he didn't have much to do with it, you know. The advice is just make everything, you know, I mean, that's, you know, which is actually pretty good advice. All kidding aside, you know, Daryl taught me how to be a PGA professional. He took me from a very raw, hungry, and talented guy to someone who could take those abilities and translate it into servicing a membership in a way that made you valuable. That's what I learned from Daryl. That's what I learned from Margie. The environment he created there was one that was filled with education, filled with encouragement, just like in the house that I grew up in. And he always told me that I was good enough to play as good as I wanted to play. And when you have somebody like Daryl, who's rarely ever wrong, the guy is never, ever, ever wrong, you start to believe that. And after a couple of years working for Daryl, I was able to win the Long Island Open. And he says, "See, I told you." And then it just sort of skyrocketed from there. Lori and I had our first child, Caitlin, in 2011. She just filled me in on the timeline of this, which is important. I'll get to the point in a second. We had Caitlin in 2011, and then I applied the last day that they were taking resumes at Fresh Meadow Country Club. And the only reason I did that is because Daryl said, "Well, you might get an interview out of the deal. I can't imagine you'd get the job, but it would be good experience interviewing over there." So I entered my resume and I submitted it to the committee. And I got an interview because my boss is Daryl Kestner, and a lot of times that's how it works. They figure, well, look at this kid because he works for Daryl. He's the best. Maybe he's half as good, and that would be good enough. So subsequently, I got the job at Fresh Meadow. Now our daughter is growing. She's, crawling around the golf shop as I'm scrambling, calling John Kennedy, begging him to tell me how to run a golf shop. That was quite nice to mention that, John. I'm happy that you remember that. It's flattering. But when you're trying to get a golf shop together as an owner for the first time, I'd worked in enough to know, I'd folded enough shirts to know, but I didn't know the things. I didn't know who to make the checks out to, quite frankly. So John helped me with that a great deal, and I will always be grateful for him to that. So flash forward to June. Now it's time for the Professional National Championship. It's a tournament that I hadn't played in before. It's a hard tournament to qualify for in this section. There's so many good players here. There's great players that have played in multiple major championships, guys who have played in the Masters, like Steve Scott, who's with us today, is one of the great players in our section. And Steve, if we could hold a vote on who in this room would want to have had that match turn out differently, I think it would be about 250 to 1. So now I go to the tournament. Lucky, we had a ladies member guest. Long story short, I end up getting permission to go. I fly out there. I don't play a practice round. Play one round actually with Chris Case, a couple other guys. Only play one of the courses, go out, and of course I break Sam Snead's record by 8, just like I had planned. Now flash forward to our next child, who was born in 2014. He happened to be born during the third round of the PNC, so we withdrew, and we paid a lot of attention to Michael when he was in the intensive care unit, and that's a big, long story I won't bore you with, but the result of it is he's home with us, and he's healthy, and he's a happy boy. Now, the very next PNC, after Michael is born, I win. So my wife Lori has pointed out that there may be a pattern here. So I know I said there's no way we're having another kid. But now that I think about it, depending on how this year and next year goes, let's just try and stay in good shape. To that end, during all this time, the consistency in my life was able to be there. I was able to kind of scramble in an hour. I get asked the question all the time, how were you able to balance getting your first head pro job and continue to play well? Now, the majority of the answer is I'm not really sure. I got a lot of good advice when I was at Deepdale, and I'd like to think that advice started to take place as I went to Fresh Meadow from Daryl and Jeff Geschwind and others. But the one constant through all of it was Lori. And the one constant through all of it was she was 100% supportive. I have to go play a tournament here. Great, enjoy it, have fun. I have to go play a tournament here. Great, enjoy it, have fun. I have to go to Florida to go play in this tournament. Great, enjoy it, have fun. And that was always her answer. And she's sitting right here on the first row. I keep looking at her. She told me not to talk about her today, so naturally I'm talking about her. Without your support, I couldn't have done it. You gave us 2 of the most beautiful children I could ever have imagined. And I know without a doubt that if you weren't in my life, I wouldn't be standing here. To that end, the Met section does a really beautiful thing when you win Player of the Year. Because it's sponsored by Omega, I think they give you this this beautiful watch. Now, as you can see, I've got a beautiful watch from the PNC Championship that I won. And really, I don't see it to be a feasible thing to have more than one watch. I'm not going to wear them on both wrists or my ankle or anything like that. I happen to have 4 of them. And the idea that I would have 4, and the person who probably is most responsible for this whole progression of success to have 0 didn't seem fair to me. So I was going to make you come up here, but I'm not going to now. To my wife, Lori, a small token. The list of names on the Player of the Year award list is long and it's distinguished. It's something that I will always hold in my heart. But I hope that all the players in the room right now, there's a lot of them, and there's probably some guys, especially younger guys, who maybe are wondering if they're good enough or not to play. A couple of them, my assistants, Joe Angolia and Josh Fritz, by the way, who were part of my staff that let me go and gallivant off to these PGA Tour events and rub elbows with the best in the world while we don't miss a beat at work. The problem is if that happens too much, they're going to start to realize that I don't do much of the work. But there are a lot of great players, and if you're one of those young players in the room, young, doesn't matter, young or old, I never thought that I would be able to be competitive with guys like Frank Benzel and Greg Visconti, Rob Labritz. There's a lot of guys on that list, Grant Sturgeon. But if you give yourself an honest evaluation of your game and you surround yourself with people that are encouraging, that are knowledgeable, and that care about you, you don't have to work all day long every day to get just a little bit better every day. And we don't have a lot of free time, especially young assistants. But I hope you look at me and you understand that I was once 23 and didn't think I was good enough. But because of guys like Billy Van Orman, because of guys like Chris Kavanaugh, because of guys like Darrell Kessner, because of guys like that were able to open my eyes to understand the path to improvement and that you actually could do it. One of the main keys is believing you can do it. And just now, I made a cut at the Houston Open because it took me 9 missed cuts to figure out that I could make one. So to all of you, I hope you look at me standing up here, and I hope you take away from this too long of a speech that you can do it. There are people in this room, myself included, want to help you do it. So my best of luck to all of you who are out competing. Thank you to all the professionals who helped me get to where I am today. There's too many to list. I'm honored to be here. And to Charlie Robson, sorry you're not getting out of this one. I couldn't be where I am today without Charlie and without Jeff and without the rest of the staff. They were always there for me, and they still are to this day. Thank you very much. Thank you to the Met PGA and all the PGA professionals in the room. I really appreciate it.
Congratulations, Matt. Next up to introduce our Professional of the Year, Mr. Charlie Robson.
Matt, thanks. JK, thanks. Give you a little perspective here for a second that only an old timer like I can share. This is our centennial, and no, I wasn't here for the first year, although I feel like it at times. But I do want to kind of close the loop on today. Butch Harmon, his dad, Claude, was the golf professional at Wingfoot in 1972 when I started. Former Masters champion. Think about that. Former Masters champion, club professional in the Met section. We used to go to Westchester Country Club every year for our educational forum. Westchester Country Club, the home of golf as far as I'm concerned in the Met area, hosted tour events, hosted the first women's KPMG women's PGA, always have been there for the Met PGA. Matt Dobbins, Player of the Year, Fresh Meadow Country Club, where Gene Sarazen walked many, many years ago. So you start to see that there's kind of a trend. And I think about that Westchester Country Club connection. And the first year that I started working, there was a fellow by the name of Charlie Beveridge, who was the educational chairman. And Charlie was the guy that brought Sam Snead to the forum in 1973. And subsequently, an award was named after him that John Kennedy so wonderfully accepted just a few minutes ago. Well, Charlie also brought another gift to the Met section, and that was a young assistant by the name of Nelson Long. Nelson was at Century for a year when Charlie wound up having cancer, went through an awfully tough time, and subsequently passed away. And the club, in their own wisdom, and when you think about Century Country Club, there aren't too many better, they said, you know what, let's give this young guy a chance. He's got the pedigree, came from the Sam Snead and the Cloyd Long School of Learning Golf out in West Virginia. He was a Virginia Tech kid, which may or may not, being a Hokie, I'm not sure whether that was good or bad, but he certainly was kind of a surprise to a lot of us that Century would pick Nelson. No surprise to any of us now. No surprise that that's over 40 years ago and he's still going strong. No surprise that he spent 32 years at Tri-Hall as their golf professional in the wintertime. No surprise that Century Country Club honored Nelson right after he got the Strasbaugh Award with a dinner that I think probably topped, I don't know if they've ever had that many members at any kind of a function at Century Country Club before. No surprise that he's mentored the aforementioned Darrell Kessner, Rick Meskel, Frank Bensel, Ron McDougall, John Gentile. I mean, it's almost like if you name a great player, he worked for Nelson at one time. No surprise that at one point, Jim McLean, David Glens, John Reeves, and now C.J. Reeves, the Teacher of the Year, all were part of his staff or are currently part of his staff. Nelson Long doesn't surprise anybody. And those of us who have known him, who have shared time with him, who have seen the kind of an operation he runs, whether he's hosting the Met PGA Championship, the Pro President, the Pro Lady Championship, the Women's Met Open, it's always the most important thing that's on his schedule at that time because he always found a way to make everybody else feel important. I'm up here because Darrell and Rick Meskel, his first two choices, good choices by the way, both had to be at a funeral service today for a member at Meadowbrook and Deepdale. And it's interesting because that, to a large extent, defines what Nelson Long's all about. It's all about the members. It's not about you. It's about the members. He has a saying, it's to provide 5-star service with a smile. And Nelson Long provides 5-star service with a smile. He also used to talk about the importance of reading the newspaper every day. And we've talked a lot about education today and what makes a good professional and what makes a good player. But for Nelson, it was reading the newspaper every day because that gave him the opportunity to talk with his members about things that they were interested in. Not just about the golf swing, not just about Jordan Spieth's fat shot into the lake on 12, but about what was going on in business in the world. So you can kind of see what kind of a person Nelson is from all of these little bits. What you don't see is the things he's done for charity. You know, Nelson Long doesn't just host charity events, he gets involved with them. And the number of them are too many to mention, but it's been incredible. He gets involved with his church. He gets involved with his schools. He gets involved with the community. It's never ending how much of a true professional Nelson Long is. And I want to read quickly what this award is all about, because I think what it's all about is Nelson Long. The PGA Golf Professional of the Year Award bestows special recognition on a PGA golf professional who has performed outstanding services as an overall PGA professional. As one of the highest honors the PGA can bestow, candidates must possess outstanding qualities of leadership, strong moral character, and a substantial record of service to the association and the game of golf. Individuals honored with the PGA Golf Professional of the Year Award will be held as a model PGA golf professional. This fellow won or played in the U.S. Junior Championship in 1968. 45 years later, he played in the U.S. Senior Open. Think about that. Think about that career. Think about the number of people that he's touched. You know, we've talked a lot about teaching. You can't teach special. Nelson Long is special. And it's my honor and my privilege to introduce the 2015 Metropolitan PGA Professional of the Year, Nelson Long. Don't talk about that, you know now.
Okay. Charlie's a hell of a pinch hitter, isn't he? Come off the bench and sub for Darrell. Where I come from, you'd say he took a hog's ear, me, and turned it into a silk purse. So I appreciate that. A lot of thank yous to make. After 75 plus golf seasons, because I did 32 in Jamaica back and forth, number one thank you's got to go to my wife, Terry. 3 children. You know, she had to bring them up, do all the work, and through the airports, the 2 oldest, the little girls, she had a leash that she would keep them from running into this and that place. So thank you very much. Margie Kessner's aunt, and she's Margie with a credit card limit, thank God for me. So she's special. At Century Country Club, couldn't thank them enough. My 3 early golf chairs, and I went there, did multiple years, Philip Waterman, Richard Gelb, Roger Weiss. They weren't going to let a young guy fail, and sure, I'm caused them some mental anguish, but we survived it all. And the wonderful people that I wish I could name all of them. I got a couple over here that'll help me if I fall down here, Frank and Steve. And, of course, my staff in Jamaica, and they're all still my best friends. That's the great part about that. Now, after receiving that award, I got my little 1-page resume out, and I'm comparing it to Darrell Kessner's 10-page resume. He was the predecessor in this award. And I said, there's only one place I can measure up to Darrell. And that's, I'm one bona fide hillbilly, and he's not. And here's the reason why. And this will set the stage for what since it's a centennial year, the PGA culture I came from down in Hot Springs, Virginia, Bath County, Virginia. Terry and I come from Bath County, Virginia. There's not a stoplight in the county, size of Westchester. Hot Springs, where the Homestead Hotel is located. Sam Snead spent most of his time after he started at the Greenbrier, across the West Virginia line. So, and Darrell came from a little city, so he's a fraud, Welch, West Virginia. So I'm the bona fide hillbilly. But what sets the stage for the PGA culture we were in, my father became a member in 1935. So in the early 30s, Sam Snead and my father were 2 courses. They were apprentice pros at each one. And I say Sam would later go to the Greenbrier, 30 miles away. And fast forward to the mid-70s, about 40 years, and you had 29 other pros, a total of 31 that came from that little community. Now, that's quite impressive, but I think what's extraordinary is the jobs these people would occupy in the golf industry. They were the head pro and or maybe two at the time, playing pros at the Greenbrier, the Homestead, the Williamsburg Inn, Sea Island, Georgia, Boca Raton, Florida, Dorado Beach, Puerto Rico. Private clubs, you had Homer Snead at Longboat Key, Florida, Pete Snead at the Pittsburgh Field Club, and of course my predecessor, Charlie Beveridge at Century. Now, there must be, obviously there's a story there. One great thing, we had a little caddy course, appropriately called the GOAT course, where you started about where my father would give lessons at the Homestead. He was there 40 plus years. And we'd play up the mountain, 6 holes, and then the last 3 holes come down the present-day ski area. It was good enough for Sam Snead to hone his game, and there's a plaque there acknowledging the starting point for it. But if you had to pick out why did they gravitate and do such wonderful jobs as running these prominent resorts and clubs, and I knew most of the 30, I ran across, I think, one thing that fit by legendary New York investor and New Zealand golf course resort developer Julian Robinson. And he was asked in the New York Times travel article, what makes a great resort? And he said 2 things. Number 1, great physical location, and number 2, a staff that has a genuine interest in their guests. Well, these guys had it. You have it in the Met section, of course. Examples, John Kennedy doesn't just have an interest in the U.S. military veterans. There's a genuine interest there. You have, for 43 years, Charles Robson didn't have just an interest in the Met PGA and us as individuals, but a genuine interest. And last year's Strasbourg winner, George Lewis, didn't just have a casual interest in the 3 Joyce brothers that worked for him, but a genuine interest, and look at their stellar careers. Now, I'd like to mention one more thing. I had a great mentor introduced me to fly fishing, Jamaica, and he was a club president of Century and Trial Jamaica. And what I learned from him on a fishing trip for salmon, he'd gone through a barren day, and this was the late Edgar Coleman. He was about 80 at the time. And he comes in, he explains to us that he's had a wonderful day. He said, you must think I'm crazy. He said, but the reason I've had a wonderful day, he said, on every cast I make out in that water, as I follow that line intently, as the current brings around, he said, I can feel a salmon 20-pounder hit that line. And he said, so I never get bored out there. Because a lot of people ask me, didn't you get tired of doing the same thing? So maybe this will apply to it. And basically, that intensity of the cast, we do it when players like Matt hit shots. Of course, we do it in teaching. We throw out a cast and hope that it connects. The St. Patrick's Day parade in New York less than a month ago, couldn't help but thinking, there's a Grand Marshal, Senator George Mitchell. How many times did he sit down at the peace table in Northern Ireland to forge a peace? And he was like my friend Edgar. I'm sure every cast or plan that he laid on the table, he could envision a peace at the end. And most people said it was impossible, but as we know, he got it, and thank goodness it's still intact. So, in closing, I think that the intensity of the cast and the genuine interest to whomever it's going to, it'll surely make the years pass by pretty swiftly, I can tell you that. but with a lot of joy and satisfaction. And also for the Bath County pros, the four of us, 2 Sneeds, JC got his start here at Century, Charlie Beveridge and myself. The Met New York Values, you have been pretty darn good to this 4 guys from Bath County, Virginia that you touched, your acknowledgments and your treatments, and I most humbly thank you for this distinction, and have a great centenary year celebrating the PGA. It's 100th. Thank you.
Thank you, Heath. Well done.
Congratulations, Nelson. If we could please have the 3 award winners meet outside for a quick picture. Going to give a couple thank yous, and then we're going to enjoy lunch. First off, I'd like to thank the Westchester Dinner Theater for being a terrific host once again. Congratulations again to all our special award winners. Thank you to our distinguished guests for being with us today. Big thank you to the Educational Committee, especially Michael Breed for his help with today. I'd like to thank all of you for attending, and most of all, our guest today, Mr. Butch Harmon. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.